Hello and welcome back to City Skylines, the Aurelia city. We have been doing some plazas in the last couple of episodes, did some nice detailing, even did an intersection detailing, something we haven't done in a long time, but now it's time to go back to doing some residential areas. We still have a huge empty land between all the places we already finished, that is the hill, the elevated parks, the round public space, and so on. And overall, we need to build around the big city park so we can finish that too. Today, we will take a look at this corner right here, where we already built the tram stop with the stairs going up the hill to the lower density residential areas that we already finished. We now have a good opportunity to build something on this sloped terrain, which is always a welcome change, and it's going to nicely transition between the high density downtown and the lower density hill district. So let's go. We're going to start right away by placing some buildings, and you've already seen these. I've been using these kinds of buildings kind of in different places around the city, not just in one project, but kind of everywhere where these buildings might look good. And in this particular area, I decided to make them the main highlight of the entire place. It's kind of straightforward why I chose them, because they are very easy to work with. They are very, very nice looking from pretty much all the sides. They have a very nice roof. The roof is kind of nice because it has nothing on it, and you can easily just do, whatever you want with these buildings. And they do look very good when you place them together to form some nicer, bigger residential blocks. Now, like I said, we are on the side of that hill area, which is somewhat lower density. We place those like lower density buildings. I don't really want to say houses because it's not like individual like single family houses, but still it's lower density compared to the downtown, which is on the other side of this place. It's kind of, sort of, right? Especially when considering the places that we built like 3 episodes back, I think. The super tall buildings right next to the elevated parks. So this is somewhat in between those two densities. Now, this place is going to be, like I said, it's going to be like a mix of these buildings, and they are going to form some residential blocks. We are first going to build just one block in this episode, and probably in some next episodes I might use the same buildings to do something else with these kinds of buildings in the surrounding areas. Now, in here, I'm also preparing some light infrastructure around this place. I definitely want these blocks to be favoring walk-in. Obviously, these places are kind of sloped terrain, so it makes sense that we are going to create some stair networks and all those kinds of nice things that people might obviously use to just walk to their destinations. We also have a tram station in here, which again is kind of creating a very nice opportunity to do something like that. So we are now doing something around that tram station. I was really not sure at first what exactly I'm going to do here in this place, but it was kind of again starting to be a bit more clear how this place needs to look like. We are also doing this pedestrian path, which is actually going to go parallel with the tracks, and it's going to lead right down to that public space area, which again might be some shops or restaurants or something like that. So people can just hop on the tram or just walk down to that area. They don't need to use their cars at all in this place. And they also have some just a few commercial areas in here, right underneath those residential buildings right here. I'm using those like art shop buildings or something like that. I'm using multiple of them, and I'm actually using them as procedural objects, getting rid of that art sign, because the sign would be there like 4 times, because I'm using the building multiple times, because I really like the black and white top of that building. It really looks nice and fits this place very nicely. We're also doing all these kinds of stairs, all these retaining walls, kind of creating very similar things as we did with the plazas and all those kinds of areas. And it's definitely going to fit this place. It's going to fit this place very nicely. I was actually kind of surprised how it turned out in the end, that it's not really having much infrastructure, this place, but in the end it's actually looking quite all right. Now, we are also going to be using a lot of green in this place. I also chose those buildings, those residential buildings, because like I said, they have very simple roofs, and you can place whatever you want on top of them. So I chose to create some kind of like a gardens on top of those roofs. The roofs do have the grass on them already, but I think you're going to later see me put like a procedural grass with the texture that I'm using on top of these roofs, because right now it doesn't look, it's not exactly fitting with the texture that I'm having right now. And you can also see that these individual buildings, I'm also kind of mismatching the heights. This is obviously intentional, especially for that block that I did right at the start of this time lapse, because that's obviously where the gardens are going to be. So that's where the top floors are going to have their gardens, their front porches, you might even say. And also this place right on the top of that commercial gallery, you might call it, that's also going to be green. It's kind of going to be like a shared garden between all these houses. As you can see, I'm obviously using a ton of procedural objects in here. I don't think that a single building in this place is actually like a normal building. But don't worry, this place is going to be like very much alive with people, because I am going to put all those blank buildings, residential buildings, inside of these. I don't think I recorded that, so I'm probably not going to show that in here. But you know, it's just placing like a fake node that's going to represent a residential building inside of these procedural objects, so that people are actually going to, you know, walk around these places. And you are going to all see that in the cinematics that it actually paid off, and there's quite a lot of people walking around these places. This tram stop is probably going to serve not just this block, but obviously the surrounding area as well. So as we are going to, you know, increase the density of the buildings around, or just build, you know, something around, then a lot more people are obviously going to visit this tram station, and maybe some neighboring like commercial buildings and all that kind of stuff. And obviously the reason for using procedural object in here is that it's kind of impossible to have actually functional buildings without having road access, which is something that I am doing in here quite a lot. A lot of these buildings might have like a single access for cars somewhere, and then I'm kind of thinking that there might be some long hallways, you know, just going through all these blocks. But obviously the game doesn't really understand that I want to do it like that, and it would really need to have a road access for every single one of these buildings, and preferably if the road was like exactly glued to that building as well, like right next to it. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna have like the trash piling up and dead people not being picked up and all that kind of stuff, and that obviously ruins the entire neighborhood. So I'm doing a lot more of these blocks. I did not finish at the end of this episode. I did not finish. Well, actually, I didn't build anything on the other side of that pavement road, or the wide road. I'm still not sure how it's called. I'm just going to call it like a pedestrian road, whatever. But I really need to remember how that road is called. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, I haven't built anything there just yet. I was really kind of concerned with this block in particular. Finished it, at least there we have that. But we still need to do something on the other side of that road. I was thinking of actually doing exactly the same style as this, but maybe using slightly different buildings, or mix of these buildings and something slightly different, so that there's like a more natural transition between different styles between all these different blocks, right? Now, this place I was talking about already, we have that like a garden area right on top of that commercial building. We are also creating all kinds of stairs all around this place. I also built a little spiral some time ago in the time lapse for maybe like some service cars, or you know, all those kinds of things. Now, I'm also in need of a bridge in here, and this is actually something that I haven't done yet in the city, but I really like how the bridge looks, the model for the bridge for the gravel road. But obviously it doesn't have an asphalt on it, so procedural objects, and you know, we have an asphalt on it, and it's actually looking very good because it's not that thick. Like it's very short. So you can have the pedestrian pavement, road, path, whatever it's called. You can have it quite close to the actual bridge, and there's still going to be enough clearance. If you used, for example, the normal road, then it has the concrete structure and some steel beams underneath it, whatever. And there's not much space left for the road underneath it. And this one looks much better as well. So I wanted to put maybe some more residential buildings inside of this block, but I decided to put maybe some kind of commercial building. This is actually not procedural objects, by the way. Probably the only building in here. And create maybe some kind of I don't know, convenience store, whatever you want to call it. And this is actually the first time I'm using these wonderful tools. These are grass networks, grass slope networks. You can see them right there in the background right now. But it's absolutely wonderful tool. I have not really used it anywhere else in the city, but when I'm going to do some infrastructure, I am probably going to use it quite heavily. It's a wonderful tool. It's basically just a grass, like a cover, but it can be sloped, and there's all kinds of different slopes, all kinds of different grades in the pack, and it's absolutely amazing. In here, I used it to cover one side of that commercial building with this little, like a mound or grass dirt hill, whatever you want to call it, which is actually looking very, very good. And I like this concept of like buildings partially like built into like a dirt pile or whatever. It's usually probably built in some like Nordic countries or something like that, or at least I saw pictures from, you know, some projects, some future projects maybe built like that in that particular style. So, you know, I wanted to try that, and I'm probably going to do that a lot in the future, maybe for some low density areas when we are going to move further away from the city. Now, obviously, all these kinds of things require a lot of fake surfaces. So you can see me put a lot of this procedural object grass in all kinds of these places. Like I said in the beginning, it was a nice opportunity, this place, to do. And by the way, I'm doing the roofs in here, as you can see. This place was a nice opportunity to try some multi-level solutions, again, like residential areas, because we are on a sloped terrain, which is absolutely perfect for all kinds of different things, to try different things, to just, you know, move people from different levels. It's just really great, because on a completely flat terrain, there's really not much you can do, and if you have some interesting terrain features, then you can obviously work with that and, you know, do something different, do something slightly new. Now, down here, we are at that roundabout, which we haven't finished yet. We still need to detail it. Still need to detail all those you know, entrances to the roundabout, to the tunnel underneath this tram road and all those kinds of things. I haven't done that in today's episode. We are probably going to leave that for maybe doing the actual park at the city park area, because in the next episode I am probably not going to focus on this roundabout at all, because we are probably going to move to some different blocks. But so yeah, you know, just so that you are not saying that I completely forgot about the roundabout. I did not. I'm just keeping it for some different phases of the build in this place. Now, I decided to extend that, however you might call it, the little overhang, the grass overhang that was kind of going from that tunnel entrance, the second level of the tunnel entrance for the trams, and basically did like the elevated park, kind of, just like I did with those elevated parks back in like 2 episodes back or something like that. But this one is obviously a bit scaled down version. It's just here to kind of blend together all these different levels. Now, these buildings that I was doing there, those are also newest additions to my collections, and I think even newest additions in the workshop as well. Some I think like Nordic buildings, something like that, modern apartments. Again, I'm absolutely terrible at remembering names of the things that I use in this game, but those look absolutely great, and I'm not showing it in here, but I'm also going to put green roofs on those buildings. Not everywhere, because those buildings have like 2 levels. There's like a lower level with the balconies, so that's where the grass is going to go, and then the top level, where I figured it doesn't really make much sense to put grass on, and it's actually not going to look all that great having the grass absolutely everywhere in this place. So, you know, just to have a bit of a contrast in here. And just continuing, we're doing a lot of these different surfaces in this place. And in here, we need to finish that tram stop. I decided to put those, again, I have no idea what those buildings are called. I think Art Deco buildings, maybe not. Again, procedural objects, because I'm not providing any kind of road access to that place, obviously. I'm going to treat those buildings as maybe some sort of like a galleries, and the bottom floor as maybe some sort of like a restaurant or something like that, like a Yeah, like a little restaurant probably. I'm going to put some kind of tables around it so that it's kind of going to look nice. We obviously need to finish these retaining walls, some kind of planters in here, all those kinds of things. It actually occurred to me that I did not put any different tiles in these places like I did with those plazas back in the previous two episodes, but I'm actually not sure why I didn't do that, but it's kind of looking good even without it. And in this place, it probably would not look all that great with any tiles, because for the tiles you need absolutely flat surface, and this is not flat, far from it actually. So it's probably better that I did not do it. Now in here we need to somehow finish this mess that I ended up having in here. We need to somehow connect these different levels. We have the different level for the road, the tram stop, that gravel road right on the back side of those different buildings. And then we obviously have this grass, like a semi-park area that is kind of hanging over the commercial buildings down at the road level, right? Those brick ones in here, right? So just a lot of stairs in here, just a lot of retaining walls. These are, by the way, my new favorite retaining walls. These concrete walls that I have used in the previous episode. I'm probably going to use these from now on a lot, probably exclusively, because it's just something new and they look really, really great. So in the end, we have a lot of these access points. I'm not showing it in the videos, but obviously all of these stairs are functional. I am putting a lot of these pedestrian paths. Actually, surprisingly difficult in this case to put the pedestrian paths in there. Not sure why, but people were just refusing to walk on those stairs, so I had to kind of fiddle with it. Kind of took a long time, but in the end we got it working, and all of these stairs are used by people, which is really nice. And obviously it's obviously going to add to the niceness of the cinematics that you are obviously going to see at the end of the episode. So almost done with this place, just one last procedural object, grass, and it's finally starting to look almost done. So we just had to do some last detailing with those residential buildings. Obviously there is, for example, some kind of a railing on the balconies. I did not put it absolutely everywhere because some of these roofs are probably inaccessible, but most of them are. So we had to provide some sort of safety, features in there. I actually don't have that many railings, so I had to use this glass one, and I actually had to use it as procedural object because it was just like not fitting the roof, like by a tiny like a margin it was off, but it was obviously visible. So I had to convert it into procedural object so I can manipulate the scale of those fences, and then it looked all right, but it was a bit more difficult to work with it, obviously. So we are now putting all kinds of detailing in here, kind of like I don't know, all kinds of benches, chairs, and all these kinds of umbrellas and stuff like that. And again, actually, surprisingly, don't have that many to choose from because I never really bothered to download that kind of stuff. And the most important thing in this place is going to be, the green stuff. The trees are going to be the trees, because this place felt really empty without that. I mean, it was supposed to be green and there were no trees, right? So it kind of makes sense that it looked really, really empty. But as soon as I started placing trees, the place really just went, one level above than what it previously looked like. And it's the case with all projects that whoever builds some kind of a project in City Skylines probably knows, because every time you start adding trees and bushes and these kinds of green decorations, then it's just looking so much better than without it. Without it, it's just like some engineering idea. But when you finally start putting these kinds of decorations, it's going to start looking like a real life, which is obviously going to become more alive. This place is going to become more alive, more believable, right? Anyway, guys, we are putting down trees, which obviously means that this episode is almost over. We are obviously going to see the cinematics. I think I took more shots than usual for the cinematics, so we are probably going to see it a bit longer. But anyway, that's it for my commentary. Hopefully you liked today's episode of the Aurelia City, and I'm going to see you maybe next week. I'm not so sure. The schedule is probably going to be a bit messed up these days, but As always, I'm going to let you guys know on Twitter and probably in the community channel in the YouTube page, whatever however it's called, right? Anyway, guys, again, thank you for watching today's episode. Hope you liked it. If you did, then definitely consider putting a thumbs up underneath the video. And you can always subscribe to the channel if you are new here and want to see more of the episodes. And obviously, if you want, then turning on notifications is always appreciated. All right, that's probably all I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the cinematics. I'll see you next time. Take care and goodbye.